Now I'm recording. All right. So if we have Will, let's walk through this. All right. So Will, our first variable that we're making is index, right? So let's do. What is index? Index is equal to the length, which is 4. All right. So is length s dot length mod 2 equal to 0?
Yes.
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 All right. So it's going to go in this first one. So now it's going to say, hey, give me the character at index divided by 2 minus 1.
Right.
What's index divided by 2 minus 1? 4 divided by 2 is?
2.
Minus 1 is?
1.
So we're going to take out the first one, right here. And then what's index divided by 2?
2.
2. So we're going to take out this one right here. Cool.
Yep.
So we're not cutting it, we're just saying give me these, we're just plucking them out.
Mhm.
So let's try another one. What's someone's favorite 5-letter word?
You need to be careful with that one.
River.
River? Yeah, let's do river now.
Good with Joe.
Thanks.
Yeah, river.
I used to have to take VIN numbers for over the phone from people,
Yeah.
and I would ask them to say a word that the letter starts with.
That got interesting.
I said that backward. But yes, it was incredible, and I would love to do a study into the words that people choose. It got very, very intriguing. That was just my favorite part of the job. Was what words are you going to use for the word?
It's not like there's a standard or anything like that. So let's see. Here. All right.
True. I mean, not always. I mean, not a lot of people, unless you know the
Yeah, the native.
Alpha, Bravo, Charlie,
Whatever that is.
Delta, Echo,
What's funny is if you miss one of those while you're on the phone, and someone in front of you knows the letter you missed, but they'll letter to you up in their phone.
Anywho,
Anywho, river.
index is now 5, right? 5 mod 0, that's false.
Right.
Mod 2 equals 1, right? Now we're going to pluck out what's index minus 1
4.
divided by 2.
2.
So pluck out this one.
You're like a human computer.
Yeah, like stepping it through it line by line, that's really awesome to do. And sometimes you have to, because that's coding, line by line. How
It
would you?
looks a lot like hers, but I didn't use Chara.
Yeah, he used something else that I want to look at as well.
Oh, that's right.
Nope.
No, yeah, I wanted to try another sample or another idea.
Yeah, I just
Dante, do you want to cast yours?
somebody's doing it right.
Hey, thanks, Amanda.
Check yours.
Yeah, I like
You both are so.
Wait, so Mark, if you did turn it into an array, what method would you use? 'Cause I tried using
Little
splice.
sauce.
I think your
Splice
way
is
less
also on a string too.
way less stuff.
Oh,
That was
really?
I got mine to
array
work.
was-
But splice isn't helpful because you gotta pick two, you gotta pick a starting and an ending.
Yeah,
So how do you just pick one?
I'll show you my solution after this.
Okay.
So, all right, Dante, explain to us your coding that needs to be better.
Okay. Yeah, so well, I took out some comments or something.
That's fine. Okay, so walk us through. Go.
So I took out, I made X equal the number of the characters in your string that you're given.
Mm-hmm.
So then I could do my if statement. So I did if the length is equal to, or modulus 2, so the remainder is 0, then it's going to be even. So then you're going to return 2 characters. The first character is going to be the string you're given split into an array, and then I put the brackets so that you get the position of that array.
Yep.
And then the length divided by 2 minus 1, and then the next character.
So here you're turning it into an array 3 times.
Yeah.
You actually don't need to use a split.
Right.
So get rid of the dot split for me real fast. All 3 of them. Because if you recall in JavaScript, we can access character indexes inside of strings.
That's right.
Oh.
You only need to convert strings to arrays if you're using map, filter, or reduce. To be
So
completely
that'll
honest.
work.
Yeah, that should work. Try it.
How do you try it? You hit enter.
Command save. Woo! Love that UI. Look how mobile friendly it is. In their defense, I'm not doing Code Wars on my phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, no way.
You can zoom it back to regular.
I don't know how to do that. It's blocking me.
Command 0.
Command 0.
Yes. There we go.
All passed.
Awesome. Then zoom back in. So yeah, this is doing the exact same thing that Amanda and Will were doing, except instead of char at, he's using the index. So it's the exact same logic, right?
Yeah, actually, char and index are the same thing.
They are.
Except with him, he's manually getting the index, right?
So are you.
Right.
But instead of using square, literally instead of using square brackets, you're using char at. That's the
Actually,
only-
yeah, that's that. Actually, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Which way's better? Which way's worse? Any thoughts?
I personally like the char app because it seems cleaner and easier to understand.
Okay, so 1 vote for char at. What else?
I agree.
I like this. I like
You like this? Dante likes this.
It goes straight to it. It gets straight to the point. Charat, I don't know what Charat does, right?
I like the green.
But
Extra
actually,
money.
Yeah, we'll show you next.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's whatever makes better sense to you and your team. Charat is more explicit for strings, right? So now we can say, hey, we are working with strings and characters. This allows us to also operate on arrays, though, using the exact same code. So it's a bit more flexible and a bit more generic.
Ooh, so you could plug it into something else and have it work for that too.
This could work with anything that has a length and anything that has the bracket syntax. That's cool. But if we know we're just working with strings and want to have a little bit tighter code around strings, which I kind of like as well, So at the end of the day, sure.
Is there any benefit from doing, like, I don't know, I put a bang in there instead of putting 1. Is there any benefit to that? Is this totally equal in all cases, right?
In this case, it's the exact same.
That's agnostic, though.
Yeah, I think it doesn't matter. Just like the charat versus the squares, it's how you want to express your code.
Now, wouldn't this work with anything that even if it's not a string?
Yeah, that's what I mean. This would work with like arrays and stuff.
Right.
Which is cool. I pluck out the middle thing of an array. That sounds useful.
Right.
Anywho, Alan wants to share his solution as well.
I don't like
Wait, so-
cast.
For the
Sorry,
sorry, for order of ops
Yeah.
in the return, the first one,
It's doing
How
this.
so it follows it. You don't have to put parentheses.
You should be.
Okay.
I would.
Yeah.
Because I don't trust you.
Right.
It's like myself.
Did it reconnect? Not do it,
Ooh, this is completely different.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
it is.
So zoom it in. Make it big. Zoom it in, and walk us through your magic.
So I set it to an array and split that array or like the word into individual letters. And then while the length of the array was bigger than 2, I popped the last letter out and the first letter out of the array and then rejoined the word together. So
Does that work?
That's actually pretty awesome.
Yeah, this is like
Yeah.
this is crazy.
Yeah. So just to walk through this.
Is that what dot shift does?
What is that shit?
Yeah. What a shift.
Shift takes the first index of your array and removes or puts it in a new array.
I like this version a lot.
Yeah. So if we have river, let's actually walk through this. So the first thing we're doing was converting to an array, right? That's the very first thing we're doing. And we're saying while our length is greater than 2, right now our length is 5. We're going to pop and shift. So we know what pop does. Pop removes from the back. And as Alan pointed out, shift removes it from the front. So that's our first pass.
And it's still greater than 2.
Yeah, so it's still greater, so we're going to do it again. Is length greater than 2? No. So we're going to kick out and we're going to join this back to a string. It's a string of 1, yeah, but it's still.
The string.
Yeah.
So it'll never
And
be
it needs
bigger.
to-
The answer is going to be in front of the string.
What about for odds?
And he used a while loop, so it will do it again.
So-
That's so brilliant.
Yeah.
Really, you're so good at this.
What about for
You're
So
so
now,
good at
let's
this.
try the other way, and let's use a longer word. That's about 8 characters. Someone have any ideas?
Brittany.
Nemesis.
I'm gonna go with Brittany because I can't spell nemesis.
BRITTANI. Oh, never mind.
That's not right at all.
Never mind.
Yeah,
If
it is
there's an
right,
I.
but hers is the 9.
Okay. Okay. Is that even? Yeah. All right. So even. Let's do this. I'm purposely not doing the I.
Mm-hmm. You just can't do
I
it.
can't.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah. Right. Thank you, Mom. So same logic here, right? What's our length?
Greater than 2.
It's greater than 2, so we're gonna get rid of the first one, and the last one. What's our still greater than 2? You know, the next two. Still greater than 2. Is 2 greater than 2?
Nope.
Nope. Kicks us out. We're left with T and T.
That's
Smash it right together.
That's awesome.
That's actually pretty awesome.
That's
Yeah.
the best
Yeah.
one right there.
Yes,
It definitely is.
We haven't
Congratulations.
seen Mark's.
Good job. Oh no, mine is just a refactored version of this.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This is a totally different way of approaching this.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so simple, but
You need
it's
a
so
gold star.
smart. It's so
Mhm.
brilliant. Alan.
This is a gold star moment.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think we should talk
Take a
gold
picture,
stars.
frame that later.
I feel like you should get a medal for that.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
I don't even want to shoot mine now.
Cool.
You should feel really good about that.
Do we like this way or the other way better?
Yeah.
Well, I was trying
It
to
took
keep it
me
in
a
one
long
line,
time.
and I think I'm close, but honestly, I don't. I'm not sure why what I have isn't working, and then I also wouldn't know how to handle the odd parts.
Is there a way that did he have to split it off and do?
Let's try this. Comment out the split. And actually put it back in. Sorry, I totally lied.
But then put the other.
Remove the dot split, like just from here. Yep, and that as well. That too. Yep.
But then you need
Everything
brackets
but the
somewhere,
S.
right?
Everything but the S, okay.
And
Then
then,
we need
and then get
brackets.
rid of dot join. Yep. Because now test is just the string. Well, do we think that this will work? Does a string have a length?
Yes.
But can you
like,
pop
yeah.
a string?
Can we pop a string?
No, it's an array.
It's an
It
array.
was an array.
It is an array method, but it is also I actually don't know. So run this, find out.
What the heck is
Command
going on?
zero.
Command zero.
Command 0.
I
Oh,
think it.
oh.
No.
I think you need brackets somewhere, right?
Nope.
No.
Test.pop is not a function.
Um,
So unfortunately, here we have to turn it into an array. So yeah, right? I really like this solution
I do too.
Elegant.
It's
It is.
so elegant.
though.
I'm so jelly.
Good job, Alan. Cool, so one list.
The to-do list.
Yeah, the to-do list. We're gonna turn our to-do list into a to-done list. What am I doing here? What am I doing? Casting. All right.
Top solution did substring. What's substring?
It takes the substring.
Oh.
It takes a sub of the string.
Mm.
Should I still have it open? God, I got distracted. Slack is an endless hole of things. I want to see the substring solution.
It's the top one. Alan's isn't even on here, man. Alan, you should post yours.
Mm-hmm.
It will be posted because he submitted it.
Oh. do we vote on it?
You have to find it,
Um,
and then upload
Does
it.
everyone's get posted?
Yeah. It's a community.
can you search for them?
So like you can search for your own field solutions.
If you really want
I
to.
don't know if you can search.
Not failed solutions. It's only successful solutions. And it's really cool because they'll group solutions together. So like, if someone else used the substring, they'll group that together to see how like
Yeah.
those 5 people plus.
Oh, just do newest. Sort of newest.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What is substring?
So substring.
This is really useful.
Yeah, right.
I feel like I need to go back to all the ones that I got correctly and like go through and all the ones that I got wrong, just all of them.
Yeah,
and
yep.
look and see how
Yep.
everyone did this.
So see, so substring takes 2 parameters, and what it does, it says, hey, start here, start at this index, take this many. So we're saying, hey, start at the middle index, and if it's even, take 2, if it's odd, take 1.
Cool.
Wow.
We discussed using Metaphor,
Actually, yeah.
and we
That-
tossed it for.
Oh, did you?
Just sort by newest, and then you can see.
Yeah.
I just put
that's
the
another
blanket
numbers.
We tossed it
I
because
just
it was
copied Alan's.
an index, because it was like what was going to be at that index.
Yours is like the third one now.
We didn't think about it. Like,
Yeah, the one with slice looks like
Actually,
it's
yeah.
the cleanest.
Code War's running really slow for you too.
Oh, it's
Yes.
awful. It's
Okay.
the worst.
So it's not just me today?
No.
Okay. They tried to do like this progressive web app Ajax-y thing, where it's like half Ajax, half not. I forget what the technology is called, but it's lame. I'll just be honest.
We have a new technology coming out. It's called Lane. It's half Ajax and half something else.
Yeah,
It's gonna be the next big thing.
Hey, this looks familiar.
Here's this. Oh yeah.
This looks familiar.
That's Alan's. That's the one I copied.
Mm-hmm. There's mine. Woo! And so just doing the same thing that y'all are doing, right?
Except yours is different.
Not really. It's, I guess a little bit.
Not
Sure,
the same.
You did a middle.
And good slice too. Slice
Oh,
is
I like the- I like the ternary.
So many console
The
lines.
beginning.
it.
you can refactor the slice and do like one line.
If it's not 2, just make it 1.
So that still just puts it right
That's
at,
such a hack.
right at the.
I like
which
that.
would have
I like this
removed
too
our-
though because you're like
The one-
defining exactly what you need and just asking for that.
Yeah.
Which is, I feel like, a thing that I don't necessarily always think of when I see a problem.
Right.
Like, okay, what do I need to be left from this? I always think about like just ways to go about getting rid of things, which sometimes.
That's a
Walk me
thing.
through your console log there. That's
Console log everything.
That's pretty much what it is. I want to, because like whenever I first wrote this, half my tests were failing because I was off by 1. So like my even test would fail and then my odd test was fail. It's like, fuck it. I'm going to log everything. So I'm logging S, whatever the string is. I'm logging how many I'm taking. I'm logging what the middle index is. And I'm also logging what I'm returning as well.
RV
Oh, so is that what
column,
RV
does that
is?
mean?
Yeah.
It's like a
I didn't
string.
know you could do that.
Yeah.
Alan, did you post yours?
He did.
Okay, so I have an important question.
Okay.
No, that's mine.
Is this our last week?
Is this our last week together? Not if we all take C#. Which would be awesome. Which we should do.
Okay.
Yep, yep. I know that you are.
I'm gonna cry for all together, guys. I spend more time with you than my family right now.
Can you?
So do I.
That sounds different.
Yep. that's a different field. So here we are. One list. We have a lot of things to do today with one list, right? What do you want to do next? I know we have our list of stuff.
You just do that. Empty the text box.
We did that.
Can we have off-white color to the background?
Ooh, something I really want to do today.
That is true. That's good for our
Can
eyes.
we please work with transform?
Yeah, we're gonna make an off-white color. So yeah, we did this.
Nice.
Please.
I That's a really long list of names.
Yeah, it's really formatted terribly. Where's my code?
Well, okay, are styles and formatting different things, or are they the same?
So that's a really awesome big question, right? Styling versus formatting. And the analogy, like a soup ladle, right? Doesn't matter what color the soup ladle is.
All right, I'll give you that. Sure, it doesn't matter what color the soup label is,
But-
except if you're the advertising department and you want sales to be higher, because then it does.
Exactly.
Yes, it always matters.
So yeah. But that's what it is. The design and the layout of a soup ladle is one thing, but the actual colors is another thing. Some people like green ones, some people like silver ones, some people like wooden ones. How it actually looks is different than how it acts. Very important details. So yeah, like UI UX styling is usually bundled into one big package, even though each one of those are completely different things. As we learned about with the talk from Big C, whoever came in this time, I forget who it was.
Karen?
Yeah. Oh yeah, she's awesome. Yes.
I was telling Phil about that this morning. A
Yeah.
story about the UI UX because
Yeah.
I had a corporate site that had it set up and everybody cared about how it looked. But when I went in and checked the functionality,
It was-
half of it was broke.
Yeah. It was
They
just
didn't
terrible.
care.
Mhm.
They were like, "Oh, that's awesome."
Yeah. So styling, picking the colors from coolers, is one thing. But actually, like laying it out on the page, how does it look and feel, or how does it feel to use? Like that's a hard one, because that's more like the art than the science. But it is a science, but it's also an art. Let's make the back not white. Background color. Antique white.
I love that color.
Is that better? Even that's better. Like
It
automatically.
is better.
100%.
Yes.
Sandy beige.
We did something. Delete. All right. Yeah. So let's edit button.
Edit button.
Cool. So how would we approach this? Thoughts? Well, we have an edit endpoint. Let's check out that endpoint real fast. So let's see. So I don't know if we can actually edit the endpoint. Edit an item. We can only mark it as true. Is it an updated item? It says updated item, right? But it only accepts that.
That's not cool.
That's not cool, but I want to try it. Oh, do you want this?
No, I'm good, thank you.
I was already halfway
Maybe
there.
the functionality is like you can call the ID of the whatever it is and then you just replace it. It's not really a true edit, you know, like maybe you just.
So we can make the edit work by deleting and recreating. Like we could do that.
What if you did their timestamp, if you really cared about your timestamp?
Exactly. Like that's a problem. Womp.
When the buttons push, would you make it into an input?
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I was looking forward to that. I should have read the documentation before we started. Anyways,
So we
Did you
can
build
make
that
the
API?
edit button.
I did it.
No.
I did not build that API. This was pre me, so I inherited this API.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and change that. It's a built on Ruby, so I think. Erlang? Nope. That's not right at all. Anyways, mark an item complete. So in order for us to mark an item complete, I'm gonna go, mark complete. Whenever it does that, it's gonna do a put back to our API, say that it's, hey, we're done, and then it's gonna update our style, right? Because we want our completed items to be styled different. Either a strike through or a big red X or something like that. Do a strike through. Strike throughs are fun. Aren't they?
Yes.
All right, so the first thing that I go, I'm saying, hey, you know what? We're starting to add functionality around a list item. we should probably make that its own component. Let's refactor that out. A new file. And we'll call this a to-do item.jsx. Do we want to make this a class or a function?
Function,
Is it
all function.
better one way or the other here?
What do you think?
No, I'm asking.
Oh, yeah.
Function.
Yeah.
Function
There
all.
really isn't a difference. Functionality is just how we think about things. So
we could make everything be functions and
Yeah.
not have, okay.
Yeah.
Just all in one project, it could all be the same thing and that'd be fine?
Yep. They can all be classes. They can all be functions. You can mix.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Use state from React. Export default function to item. Aha. Then we want to return this thing. Whee. To do item, key equals that. There we go. So we moved, abstracted it away, moved it over here, but we're not done with our refactor yet. Because now that we moved everything over here, we need to say, hey, where is item coming from? Where is text coming from? Where is this delete item coming from? We need to actually give it, we need to pass it stuff. Stuff is properties. Dante?
So you put props into the to-do item function there, and did you have to put anything into, is that just for that, that's for that page, right?
Yep, yep.
What about on the previous page is going to, you
Yep.
have to put anything there on the,
Not yet, but I will.
okay. I mean, I'm talking about at the top, you don't pass the function anything there, right?
I just import it.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
But we need to pass this thing props. What do we need to pass it? Well, we need to pass it everything that this needs to work. So we need the item text, the item created at, and the item ID. And delete item. So that's 4 things, right? So let's pass it the item equals item, as well as our delete item, delete item. So then now on the other side, we can do, hey, it's no longer just item.text, props.item.text, props.item.created at, props.deleted at, and
Why,
props.item.id. I mean, really, the only thing that's missing from this versus the class is this dot props.
Mhm.
This is just props, so it's 5 less characters.
So on the to-do list, you have to tell it what you want.
Yeah. Yep. It's like I'm creating the sandbox for my child, my to-do list item, and I need to tell it what all you have access to.
So the delete item function is gonna work even though that function is not written on this page?
Yep.
Cool.
Because we're passing it down, we're passing that function down as a prop. Because in JavaScript, functions are not just functions, functions are also data. Functions are treated like data.
Cool.
Yeah, right?
So you can move them around a lot more than we have been.
Yeah, I mean, but we've been moving around a lot more. We've passed them as props before, we've used them as references before, we've wrapped them in functions and passed anonymous functions around. So we've been doing a lot. We've been using them as data, we just haven't said that out loud. Cool. Let's see if this works before we pat ourselves on the back. Well,
Oh yeah, gives you a moment in your other one.
because I do.
Cool, it didn't break.
Right? Let's really make sure that it didn't break by adding something and then deleting something. Cool. Now it actually didn't break. I like it. So now we actually want to mark it as complete. That's going to be a functionality on the to-do item. We're not going to touch our to-do list. I'm going to close that out. So if I want to mark it as complete, I'm going to have some function here mark as complete. And what this is going to say, hey, I need to make a post. Sorry, a put. So Axios.put. And pull these over as well. There's a better way to do that, but we're going to talk about that later. So I want to put to my API URL /item /ID props.item.id and my access token equals token. Right? Nothing too crazy. Put is a new verb for us though, right? We have get, we have delete, we have post. Now we have put. Put kind of rounds out the four main verbs that we're going to talk about. Get is our get, of course. Post, create, typically is associated with creating things on the server. Delete, of course, deleting stuff on the server. Put is for updating. Between those four options, get, create, update, and delete, it actually is a very common acronym called CRUD. Create, read, update, delete. Those are pretty much the four operations that every app does.
Yeah, that's on the capstone thing. I was like, what's CRUD?
Yeah. Yep. Create, read, update, delete. So I can create data, I can read data, I can update data, and I can delete data. I mean, think of every web app you've ever touched, right?
Total crap.
Yeah, it is totally CRUD. And put is the update of that. So I'm saying, hey, put to that item, I want to update it, and I want to pass it this thing. Haha. Right? I want to pass it that it's marked complete equals true. And that's it for right now.
Because that's all it's going to be able to do.
Yep. We could also probably set it to false as well. I don't know if we can update the string, the text, but I'm going to try later. Console.log response. So let's just get this to work, and then let's round out this feature. So on the on click, we want to run mark as complete. How we feel about this?
So you're just updating that?
Yeah.
Complete to true?
Yep.
Doesn't matter what it was before?
All right. Not yet. Because this really should toggle completion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But let's get it to work, and then we'll worry about the toggle.
Okay.
So if I come here, Axios is not defined. So I'm going to bring up my inspector. So what do I expect to happen here? I expect us to make an AJAX request with the appropriate ID and the appropriate completion status. And I expect to get back that, hey, this item was marked completed. I also expect whenever I refresh the page that that item has a completed to set to true. So I kind of like to set expectations. So everything should be marked to true for that one item. And let's style this page. I did that, sort of. It's that item. That's the item ID. Completed is true. I like that. So now when I refresh the page, hey, success. Awesome that we can see that. Now let's style this up, right? So let's say, hey, class name equals, and let's just go, hey, if item.completed, I want to give it a completed style sheet If it's not completed, don't give it anything.
And that's the class thing.
Yeah, that's a class that we're gonna create. How are we feeling about that? I saw a lot of
That's a really cool line of code.
yeah, right?
It's really powerful. It says a lot.
Yeah.
Completed scope.
That's a sharp knife within the toolbox.
Yeah, Will is great.
Completed scope.
On item dot competed.
I was looking here. I was like, nope, that class is right. Yeah. Okay. So now I'm gonna head over to my style sheet. So quick CSS question: how do I do strike through text?
Text decoration. Maybe.
Is it text style?
Oh, yes. Text decoration stuff.
Font. It is font style.
Okay, text decoration
Nope.
line through.
Text decorate. No. CSS.
I
I was actually hoping someone would know this.
should know it.
Yeah. Right.
It is text decoration.
It
Good
is.
job.
Straight.
It's called something different. than
Line through.
Line
That's terrible.
That's terrible. You like that joke? I like the name.
I like it.
Like the name is
Item
lame.
is not defined. Stopped.
You know, Lane was actually like an MP3 compression thing.
So let's see. Class equals nothing.
They call it Lane.
Sounds pretty lame to me.
That's because you said it to nothing unless it's like marking's completed.
Yeah, but that first one is completed. At least it should be. So now we have a bug. Not quite sure where the error is, so let's figure this out. Because it's not completed, it's complete.
You changed the name of the CSS class, not the name of the props.
I knew that.
I wasn't paying attention.
I wasn't. There we go. Aha.
Yeah.
Nice.
Even crossing through your
Somebody's
Yeah.
angry.
Mhm.
That was
Are we happy with that?
It maybe should cross through the time.
Yeah, maybe we probably should cross to the time.
should auto hide the time.
So let's say
Actually, no, maybe.
I only want to class name equals item text. Because I only want to cross this one out, right? So I'm going to say, hey, no longer completed, but completed item text. So find me any element that has class item text that's inside of a completed item.
Wait, so you don't have to do the greater than sign?
So so see what it says right here, the dot dot dot? That's a
Yeah.
dot dot dot. If I switch it to a greater sign,
Specifically looking for that one thing.
specifically looking for anything on the first.
So if you have more than one item.
Yeah. So if it's not, so if we had so our li, it's set up like this, right? And then inside of this, we have our p tag of our actual list item. It's its first child, right? Because our class is right here. If we now all of a sudden move that class to something that's inside of here, div h1, then we give this the class of item text. It will not affect this. Because that is looking for, hey, what's my immediate children? Cool. Let's see if this works. Save. There we go. Whoops. So now I can mark things as complete, but really I don't only just mark things as complete, I want to be able to toggle the completion status, right? Because really if I mark things complete by accident, or I want to go in and update, or like, oh, I need to do this again kind of thing, I want to be able to toggle that. So now it's not going to be mark as complete, toggle completion. And we're not always going to set it to true, we're going to set it equal to whatever the opposite of prop.item.complete is. Ooh. And then, now if I come here, refresh the page, mark as complete. Item. Refresh the page. Ta-da.
Why do they have to refresh to pick up
All right? All right? Because we're not actually updating the value of completion. Right? We're updating it on the server someplace else, but I'm not actually writing it down anywhere.
Right. So it doesn't like trigger the React to do its thing and go through the side life cycle.
Right. I'm just going, hey, Dante, I need you to do this for me. And then you're going off and doing it, but I'm not writing it down. So we need to do that now, right?
Yeah.
How do I want to do this? How would we approach this? I know how I would. What are our thoughts for this?
I'm sorry, what are you trying to accomplish?
Because the problem, just to say it again, is that whenever I hit mark as complete, in order for me to see the updated completion status, I have to refresh the entire list. I have to refresh the page. So how do I get around it?
I would put.
What was that, Alan?
Run your get again.
We could run the get again, right? We could say, hey, you know, we updated one item, let's get everything again. That's a good answer.
Can you use default behavior here to not the default behavior like stop it from?
No, we wanted to do more things than
Yeah.
do it by default.
We're not stopping it, we wanted to do more things.
And we discussed yesterday how refreshing the page is not a thing users appreciate necessarily.
Correct.
So we could force do that, but that seems non-ideal.
Correct.
Right.
I like Alan's decision.
A
Just do
form?
all the things Alan says today.
All right, Alan. So I want to show without Alan, and I want to do the Alan solution as well. Because typically I tend to shy towards the Alan solution, but there's a way to do it without having to go all the way back to the server.
You just have to do something on the page.
Yeah, right.
It could be arbitrary, but you just have to do something so that it like triggers.
I would create it as a form and then do a submit. I mean, because you just have it where it just holds information, and the
So-
only time it updates is when it's submit.
So
That's good.
really,
Time to the button on click.
this is kind of our first kind of like, oh, we're taking props from a parent, our completed state. And here's an idea, let's throw it into the state of the child. Because now this child is always going to be keeping track of what its state, of what its current completion status is. Yeah. So we can use our hooks here. So const is completed, set is completed, equals use state. And what are we defaulting to?
Props.item.complete.
Props.item.complete. And now we just use this everywhere that we would use this instead. And then once we get back, yeah, right? That's kind of cool.
Very cool.
Does it work?
Oh, let's find out.
Oh,
Hey, that's cool.
You walk through that?
Yeah. So what we're saying is that so we start off with our big bucket, right? Our to-do list. Our to-do list has a state, has stuff that is keeping track of. But not only is it keeping track of that, each individual box of a to-do list item keeps track of its own state as well. And its own state is initially based off of the props that were passed to it. Because that state comes into play, because now we're tracking something that's changing, right? Our completion status is changing over time. So whenever we go to click this, instead of actually affecting the props and using the props value, we just want to know what its current state is. So we're going to use our hooks up here to track whether it's completed or not instead. And every time we toggle that thing here, we're going to send a request back to our server to update it there.
What is old status?
Old status is what the state was before.
Okay, so you didn't define that anywhere.
That's just mumbo jumbo. That's just saying, hey, compute the new completed is completed from the opposite of the old one.
That really shows the power of hooks right there.
And yeah, and that's really your switch.
Mm-hmm.
Because it just grabs what's there and says, oh, I'm changing it to the
Yep.
opposite of what it was.
Yep.
Wow. You would think that would be lines and lines of code.
Yeah, right.
So why isn't it refreshing the page anymore?
It doesn't need to be. Because here, on line 20, this is where we're actually updating the status of this component.
That's after the put, right?
Yep.
So it still has to make an Axios call every time you cross through something?
Of course, yeah, because you're updating it on the server as well. Now, how are we feeling with this?
Not good.
Okay, where is it not good?
I don't know. I probably have to take some time with this, but you can move on.
Can you change the message on the button where it says mark complete?
Yeah, we can. How would we do that, B?
You tell the browser to do that.
Okay, browser, do this for me.
I don't know.
It's going to look a lot like this.
Okay.
Right? We're looking at whatever it is. What's the current status? And if our status is one thing, we want it to say one thing. If it's something else, we want to say something else.
Yes.
So, if it's completed, what do we want it to say?
Complete?
Undo.
Yeah, undo.
Undo. Yep. Undo. And then complete.
Wow,
So easy.
that's cool.
I love
Oops, have an extra squiggle in there.
Undo squiggle.
Undo squigs. It's like a little mustache.
That's great.
So you notice how there's a bit of a lag as soon as I click the button to when it actually updates.
Because of the promise.
Yeah, because of the promise. So now we need to kind of think about how we can get around that, right? Because this is fine, this is dandy, but if our API is slow, if they're on a shitty network, as like mobile devices are, like how do we get around that? Well, really, we can use something like this. Is that we can toggle it before it, and then check in here and go if response dot status does not equal 200, then we can either display a message or undo what they did. Handle the error here. So now it's a bit more snappy, but now our code is a bit more complex.
Can you do that again?
So the problem that we had before is that it was kind of lagging after we did something, right? But that's because we were only updating the UI once we got back. And that network call can take a couple milliseconds, it can take a couple seconds. And users expect things to happen as soon as they click buttons. So what we did is that we're like, hey, you know what? we're just gonna straight up toggle it.
And just show it.
Yep. And then update it in the background. And then down here, if it failed, then we show them a message saying that the update failed or something like that.
So if they were like clicking the button really fast and then like, someone is it gonna catch up or it'll be
Eventually,
right?
yeah.
It'll catch, okay, so it's accountable, like
Yeah.
one for one, right?
Yeah, we're gonna do a little game tomorrow where we actually find out why that's a thing.
Yeah, and actually the fact that you moved it up where it responds faster will keep it from clicking it multiple times, to be honest.
Yep.
More likely.
Amanda?
Unless you're just messing around.
So we got options about how to handle the error, right?
A lot of
In
options.
your page, or we could just like kick an alert out or something.
Yeah, we can say like warning status not saved.
Okay.
So like if we want to do something like that, const error message, set error message. Let's use state. All right. Set error message to being warning change not saved. Like we can do like styling classes and CSS is here as well. But then down here, we can say, hey, if there's an error message, if error message is a thing, then display a p tag that says the error message. And this can have a class name of error message.
Why do you need your error message in state?
Because it's changing.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's a value that's changing. The error message that we're going to get, hopefully we never get one, but we probably will. So it's a value that's going to be changing. So we're throwing it in state.
So that's
Is it
from
going to appear?
stall
If-
promise
we
to
have said it's a
time out on an error. Well, it won't time out.
Yeah, whatever the error message is.
Yeah, it'll just immediately change.
It looks pretty static to me. It's just one string.
So it's not static because we're not guaranteed an error message.
You don't want it to be error when the page loads.
Yeah.
You just want it to be error when the page doesn't load or whatever.
Yeah.
It's
So
conditional.
you make it reveal by putting a hook in it. Yeah.
So whenever I first load the page, there's no error message, right? And the error message only updates whenever an error happens. So that when an error happens, that's the value changing. Yes, we're updating it just to this one thing right here. But really, it's in two states, nothing or something.
Right.
On line 38.
38. Yeah, new syntax.
Yeah, so it's like a truthy if this exists.
Yes.
The empty string doesn't exist enough to count.
Yeah, so this is new, right?
Yeah, you're busting out all the deliciousness today.
Yeah. Well, it's the last 2 days of JavaScript. I have to.
Yeah, because we're not going to use this again. Well, we'll do the back end stuff also.
Until like week 7.
Which is next week.
Yeah, right? It might be next week, yeah. Maybe week 8. No. I know.
I need more time. I need like one more week.
What's
Oh.
in between?
You'll get practice. So, this is a new syntax, right? This is based off of something in JavaScript that's called short circuit. Alright? So, let's kind of take a step back. What does and do? Logical and.
It is
It's a picky
it's a
answer.
true statement. It's a and statement. Well, it's both items have to be true.
Yeah, so if we have A and B,
Both of them together is
Looks for
a true
another
statement.
condition.
it looks for what?
Looks for another condition. I
No,
guess.
I mean, it looks for,
It's
what's
an
that?
implied if.
Right? We're saying, hey,
Both of them have to be true.
both of these have to be true for this to be true. If either one of these are false, this thing's false, right?
Right.
So if it's going to go in here, if it's checking this expression and A turns out to be false, is there a reason to return B?
No.
Right? So what short circuiting does is that, hey, instead of it checking B, if this is false, it doesn't even check B at all. Alright? So that's the first idea of short circuit.
Right.
The second, what this builds on, is that in JavaScript, it actually cheats a little bit. What it turns actually isn't true, it's a truth e-value, and it's the last truth e-value that it evaluates. So really, A and B, even though we know it equals true, it's actually B, but as true. I know, it's a bit bravery.
What's
Well, explain the
actually
word. Well, does that help though?
What?
Explaining the word
You know,
alongside that.
Yeah,
Does that help or does it make it more
That's
complicated?
what
it makes it more complicated.
Okay.
Because an or does the other things.
Right,
Because
that's what I'm saying,
if
it might be
returns
more-
the first
It
truth.
might be more helpful,
Yeah.
but
So it
maybe
would
not.
only check for the first value and then it would just.
So this says, hey, if error message is a thing, if it's false, ignore this. If this is true, then return this. It's like a short ternary.
But it doesn't say that. I mean, it does, but it
Right?
doesn't.
Oh my God, whenever I found out about this, I like table flipped. Because this is but this is a very React way of thinking.
Yeah.
Because if we recall, inside of these squiggles, we can't actually have real JavaScript logic. We have to have code that expresses down to one thing. That's it. That's why we can't have if statements in here.
Is it important to check both because it's also
So, like-
referring to what's in state?
I'll ask you a question again in two
I'm sorry.
minutes. So like, we can't do stuff like this. If error message return that. What?
So it looks like something happened to it.
Yeah, like this is a very common like error. It's like, why can't I just do something like this, right?
I was trying to do that last night.
Yeah, and it didn't work.
It did not work.
This is not a very React way of thinking. React likes dealing in expressions, not so much lines of code. So instead of having lines of code here, it wants an expression that boils down to one value. This doesn't boil down to one value. It does for us, because we see it, but it doesn't know that. It can't know that. I can also put other lines of code here.
Because in that string it has to get the if, which is a different value, pass that
Right.
to the next piece.
Even though we consider this one block of code, right? One idea, one thought. To JavaScript, it's two separate things. And that's no way. That's not good.
So couldn't you rewrite it with a ternary?
100% yeah. Yeah.
What would that look like?
So error message. If error message, return the error message. Else, return nothing.
I like that.
Yeah, that's fine. I like this too.
So your syntax basically just saves the step of return nothing.
Yep. The next line goes, oh well, we don't really need this, right? Let's get rid of that and use ampersand instead.
I like that too.
Yeah, it's weird to look at it at first without knowing like what the hell it is. But once we break it down, it's like it's actually not that bad. If this, then give me that.
It's the same thing as a JavaScript operator, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's doing the exact. It's still a logical and.
Okay.
It's just using a special side effect of JavaScript logical and to help us render the page a bit better. Done.
So I think the way I was working around this was I was putting all the logic into like a function above and then just dropping the function in there. Is that like the long way of doing it?
That's a perfectly valid way of doing it too.
Okay.
And what Dante is talking about is we have a function called show error message. And this thing we would have our if statement in here. If error message,
Then return.
then return this, else return nothing. You know, so it's, and then
That
down,
reads like a really long book.
and then down here we just say, you know what, show error message. That's the third way of doing it.
Is is your hookup on top doing essentially the same thing though? Like where you're setting the error message into?
Right here.
Yeah.
So it may look like, but it's actually doing two different things. Up here, it's actually doing the business logic, like how we decide what an error message is. So like yeah, here we're checking if response equals 200. We also check like what the message is, what we got back, if it took too long. So like that's actually what an error is. Down here, this is what's called our display logic. It's how we display it to the user.
I meant like even farther up where the error message right there.
Right here.
Yeah, like what is the difference between that and the like the double ampersand you use?
So that's the actual data for the error message. Down here is what we're using to actually display it. This is referencing the data up there.
Like you already have it set to a blank error message, so that means like it won't pop up until an error comes.
Correct.
So why do you like? I don't understand the difference between that and then using a double ampersand. Like, is that what that is for?
Oh, like these two ones right here. I'm trying to.
So okay.
Yeah.
You put the double ampersand in there so that if there is an error message, then it'll show.
Correct.
Wasn't it already doing it?
No, it wasn't. We were just saving it in state. We weren't actually doing anything with it.
Okay.
Yeah, this is us doing it with it, doing something with it.
Gotcha.
Yes. All right. You want to see if this works?
Yeah.
Okay. Right after all of that. So let's simulate a 200 by changing our logic. It's a strategy. We're just going to temporarily change our logic to always trigger an error message, just so we actually see that it works.
That's how you test error messages.
Pretty much, show error message is not defined. Line 29.
Yeah, that's the show.
Oh. Now every time I go to market, so like I need to style this a little bit. So for this first one, this undo is going to trigger the error message. I click it, it's not there, it shows up.
Impressive.
So yeah, like adding error handling and stuff like this, it adds a little bit of complexity, right? And that's okay. It's nothing to shy away from. It's going to be there, and it's actually not too terrible. It's a lot of what we're doing, but we're just doing it more. In this case, more is always better. Speaking of which, 11:01, awesome, great first hour. Let's take a 14-minute break. Come back at 11:15, and we'll go to the next item of our to-do list.